And we are. Hey guys, how are you doing? I see we got Sean, Neverly, Yours, Banana Man, Becca, Jinx. How are you guys doing? Glad to see you. And Catnip, the super mod. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm here with Jax. Hi, Jax. How you doing?
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to talk about mine and Jack's favorite pet peeve, the thing we hate the most, plea deals. And I'm just going to let Jax take over, and then we'll take questions and whatnot. I'll keep watching the chat, and if we get questions, I'll interrupt you, Jax, like I normally do to people. and then, but I want to show everybody. Hey, I got my merch, and this is one side that says "not my verbiage," and them are the reasons. And then there's this side that says "this is my verbiage." And it's truth, justice, and fairness. And I got a T-shirt, which you can't really see, but it's pretty cool, and a sweatshirt, which in a later date I'm going to be having a giveaway, and I will give away the shirt or the hoodie. Hi, Jay. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. So stay tuned and we'll watch the show because you got to be here in order to win one. So there you go. Are you ready, Jax?
I'm ready.
Okay. So
Well,
you want to show something, or do you want to
well,
just talk?
first I'm going to talk about something that's dear and dear to all of us, and that's Brendan and
Yeah.
this alleged plea deal that he was offered, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Kratz comes out and says, they offered him a plea deal. It would have been 15 years and blah blah blah. We don't know any details of it because, to my knowledge, there was nothing ever written or presented in a paper that detailed exactly what they would have recommended. And even then, it wouldn't have meant that Willis would have accepted any such plea deal. Of
Right.
course, that would have meant Brendan would have had to first, he probably would have had to have allocated to a bunch of stuff that he didn't do. And number two, he would have carried a felony for the rest of his life. He couldn't go back on it. Once the plea deal's done, it's really, really almost impossible to get out of it.
Yeah, it
And,
is.
and a lot of people don't understand that. But it really fires me up about that because they had set him up so completely. Um, Beginning, I'm going to say mid-February 2006. It really, there was another interview, obviously in November of 2005, but they really went after him in February 2006. And they stayed on him multiple times. And not to rehash too much of that, but um, it, they really bound him up in so many knots.
Mhm.
And then this, alleged confession, and he asked to go back to class because he's got a project due after he admits to this alleged all this other bunch of crap. Come on,
Yeah.
come on, you know.
Yeah. And then
So
Fassbender. Well, you didn't think I'm a police officer. You did know I was going to have to arrest you, correct?
right. So
Okay.
it's so clear that he had no idea what he was doing at all.
Mhm.
How the Seventh Circuit judges could not see that is just they've just taken all the hubris and humanity out of the equation, all of it.
Right. Right. Exactly. They did Brendan wrong all the way around.
They did. They really did.
In every aspect. I mean, first of all, he was failed by any um, clear, unbiased counsel for sure. I mean, what O'Kelly did is well, we all know how I feel about that. That'll really get me going. But I mean, you don't put a 16-year-old learning disabled or speech disabled, language disabled. Let's get that straight because a lot of people get confused. And he's not like, severely. It's just his language is limited to what he understands. And they give him people like that. And that's no defense at all. And
Well, it's a cognitive thing, right?
right. It's the understanding of how many words. Like if I said, go get that cat, he would understand that. But if I said, go get the cat, and on your way back, stop, shut that off, and then bring me this and that too, he would lose me at the cat. He only
Probably.
understands. certain.
That's right. The cognitive ability for him to process what they were doing to him. And, even for, and we need to talk about this, even for Barb and those around Brendan.
Yeah.
For a long time, I really vilified what I thought Barb had done or not done. But the truth is that if we take it, let's just take in context. And I'm not defending her, and I'm not saying that she was right. I'm just saying put yourself in her position,
exactly,
and in that time frame, and what she was facing. She's got a brother that they've got locked up, and they're just hammering nails in him left and right. And then they're telling her that he did this terrible crime. They've got evidence, which they didn't. They lied to her. I'm sure they did.
Right.
I'm sure they lied to her like they did everyone else.
Numerous times.
So here she is, I'm sure beside herself, trying not to believe in it, but thinking to herself, oh my God, did he, and what has he done to Brendan? Brendan was over there,
Yeah.
So she's probably scrambling, 14 ways of hell. And I'm sure her home life wasn't that great to begin with. She's working fucking full time. Don't tell me that woman wasn't stretched from one end of the. I know I would have been.
I would have been nuts. I know that. And what gives you a really clear understanding is if you just listen, even in Making a Murderer, when Brendan says, "What does consistency mean?" Well, Barb didn't know either. So maybe she suffers from the same language disability. We don't know. You don't know anybody's deep down life, and this stuff is happening. So it's really easy to judge, but I am at the firm believing that she was completely victimized, just like a lot of them, all of them. I would say the whole lot. They were told lies. They were showed things. They were told things. It just, they were threatened. As far as I'm concerned, they're all victims, so.
And they were shown what the cops and law enforcement wanted them to see. They weren't showing everything, just like everyone else.
Exactly.
So, for her, she's there, she arrives, let's just say March 1st, and, they're saying, well, we're going to have to ask him some questions, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be pretty. It probably would be better if you didn't, just wait here. We'll come get you, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. It's not going to be nothing real big deal. Just, yeah.
Right.
I can see him doing that.
I can too.
I certainly can. I mean, they set it up for, first of all, she had an appointment, and then they told her and that 3 different places that her son was in before she even could find him. So, they lied about his location when they took him from school. I mean, there's a lot of things that they did that Barb had to fight against.
And if I'm remembering, she was also she had to finalize her divorce papers.
Yep, that
day too. So she had that to deal with at court. It wasn't like she was canceling a doctor's appointment. She had to go.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so there, and when you first look at it, it is easy to say, where was his mom? Why wasn't she there? You know what I mean? It is. It's easy for all of us to sit back in our chair and examine this and say that. But when you get into it, well, especially you, Jax, you've been in this case for a long, long time. You're one of the firsties. So, you've examined this stuff from one end to the other and everything in between as much as you can possibly, what we have available to us. And there's nothing legally that says this. There's nothing in paperwork that says this. So, it's just a perspective that was also for us only one part, so in through the film. So it's hard for anybody to say what happened to that family, because I believe every one of them were victims and terrorized. I mean, I've heard stories of the cops going up in their yards and putting on their lights at their house at 3:00 in the morning and then leaving, or saying, like Barb said in the chat, it's brother. That's pretty threatening. Them are threatening words.
Well, and I can tell you a big giveaway that's a huge strike against law enforcement, and that's Fox Hills.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no excuse for what they did there, none, and they cannot justify it in any way.
Yeah.
So that's a big tell against, and that happened right in the midst of all this, right? So that just tells me. Well, I mean, This tells me, Linda, that they said, we can do whatever they want, and they freaking did. They just did it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. I agree. I totally agree with it. They did. I mean, this is a case that the law was wrong, and they're totally corrupt. So, oh, little Andy there in his suit. I'm sorry, buddy, but I hope they don't settle. I really don't. Not only do I want to hear about what's going to be brought out, because I think things will be opened up by this suit, but Andy, they might have changed something, but it didn't make he looks bad anyway. He looks bad anyway when you read that there's no reports, line reports, one line. 8 years later, reports from him. He makes himself look as bad as he is.
So, oh, absolutely. Absolutely does. He makes himself look awful. So, yeah. And, yours made a comment, Fox Hills was the big prep for Brendan to confess. Yeah. I have to agree. It was. And it was an intimidation move.
Yeah. I think what they did was get him there to watch that movie. I certainly do. Although Mark says she don't know if it was showing or not, but I don't know. What are you going to take him if he's if you're worried about his life being threatened? Why is it only one night?
That's
and
right.
Why did you drop him off and just leave?
They just drop him off the next day. The next
Fox Hills is only down the road from the Avery salvage yard, so
right.
Really take him far, because I know how far it is. I've been there, and it's right down the road.
Well, to me, it's by actually taking them to there. To me, that would put them in more danger than to just say, "Hey, we need you all to come down to the police department to answer some questions," and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
And then let them go. Yeah. So by him, I don't know. The excuse that I heard, it just to me it would, if there was actually any danger, which we all know there wasn't. That was a lie.
Yeah.
So anyway, for Brendan, this alleged plea deal, this was all for it benefited the state only. It did not benefit Brendan in any way, shape, or form. But plea deals,
right? Plea deals.
So yeah. So I want to share a screen. It's the first one, and this really goes to the it kind of is a basis for a lot of what follows after. I'll put it up here, and Linda can share it. There it is, right there.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Smart Duck. I'll say hi to some people that came in. Jay, Smart Duck, and Dark Side. You finally made it. Diane and Jean. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Or in Jax too. Okay, there we go, Jax.
Share that.
Okay, I'll put it in big, and you can do your enlarge. Can you guys see it? Let's get a 1 or something if you can see it. Question: what was the exact deal being offered to Brendan? Yours would like to know.
As I remember, it was the only thing that I really remember out of any of it was that the Kratz would have recommended 15 years, and then some kind of probation afterwards. But other than that, like I said, I don't remember. Actually, I don't know of anything that was actually written out and printed for the exact details for any plea deal for Brendan. I don't remember anything. And if somebody has it, I would sure like to see it.
Yeah.
So
definitely. I don't know. I never remember reading anything about it, or I'm got a bad memory though. I couldn't even remember the 3 plea deals today. So
yeah, Jinx is saying she thought 10 years and he would have to testify. Yeah, he would have had to have testified against his uncle. So that was another part of it, I'm sure. So there's going from that part, there's another piece to that in saying that,
oh my gosh,
if he actually did get in the box, then Dean and Jerry could have questioned him, and Kratz did not want that at all. Promise you that. So there was more than one reason that probably didn't take place. So.
Oh, I gotta say hi, Mose. He's in the chat.
Oh, so, hey, Mose.
Okay, go ahead, Jax.
Anyway, 13th Amendment, and this goes back to for those of you that have watched the 13th on Netflix. It's a great little docu series that really details the 13th Amendment and what people really don't understand about the 13th Amendment. And of course, everybody says, well, that abolished slavery. Well, yeah, sure it did. But then if you read the text of it, let's read the text of it here, and just so we're clear about what it does. Okay, let me highlight that, get highlighted there. Passed by the Congress on January 31st, 1865, and ratified on December 6, 1865, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States and provides that neither slavery nor the involuntary servitude, except, this is the important part right here, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So what that says is that if you're convicted of a crime, you're a slave. And anybody that thinks anything different, they're not reading that right. That's exactly what that means. Because when you go to prison, what do these big companies do, Linda?
What?
When you go to prison, what do these big companies do if you take a job?
Oh, they ask you straight up if you have ever been.
No. I'm talking about when you're in prison. What do they do with those prisoners?
Oh, well, they make you work for 20 cents or 10 cents a freaking hour.
It's slave labor.
It's beyond slave labor. Sometimes you don't even get paid for some jobs. You just take them because it makes you a better prisoner. You know,
Well,
it helps your prison stay, you know.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
23 cents working hard.
This drives into another part of saying, these big private prisons, which I know you have a lot of people have a big problem with. I have a huge problem with it because they're getting rich off of somebody else's misery, and that should never be the intent to me of prison. If somebody breaks the law and they get convicted,
do your time.
Well, you do your time, and at worst, the worst thing that should happen is that there are ways for a prisoner to improve themselves. So when they get out, they have a chance at something better than maybe than what the life they left.
Yeah.
When they came into there. So
Sean says prisons in America make Asian sweatshops look like a desirable worth employment. I guess you're right. Worthwhile. Exactly. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. But to me, this incentivizes, it encourages this whole mechanism of our justice system. People saying I'm reading too much into this. Am I really? When you think about how many people are in prison in the United States, it's well over 2.5 million. How many of those people of that 2.5 million are working for these slave labor wages for these companies, for a state? And you can look at it any which way. I don't know any other way to look at it. If somebody can tell me how else to look at it, I'm open for discussion. But I can't. I've looked at it. I've looked at this for a long time. And when I saw the 13th and really understood the 13th Amendment, which I'd read before, but it never clicked. It never did.
Right.
So
and federal prison's worse. You work, you do get jobs there, and they pay you like 26 cents an hour, and you're doing over 10 years most of the time, and you get not hardly, shoe money, when you get out. So really, it's ridiculous.
Oh, it is ridiculous. And I think it's set up, but it's all about greed. It's all about money.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have another aspect entering into the justice system. That's not, to me, it's not supposed to be about, but it is. Right. But it's not really talked about, and it should be. And, this is kind of, well, it really is where a lot of plea deals come in. So let me get off of this screen here, and we'll go to another one here. Let me get back over here.
Yeah, when I did my little video today on plea deals and found out, because I didn't even know there was just 3, there's 3 into them. And the 13th Amendment was like right at me when I was doing it. I should have put something. I should have put what it is in my video, because that you are a slave. You truly are, and it says it. There we go.
Yeah, and looking at we're going to look at a couple of different places here for the history of plea deals. Everybody needs to understand that plea deals have been going on for centuries, long before the U.S. justice system was even a thing. But by and large, it didn't really happen that much. And then, looking at the 18th century, most of the time, if you think about, the older types of trials and so forth, typically speaking, if you read through this stuff, and I'm not going to read through it all, but typically speaking, the judge and the prosecutor and even the defendant handled most everything. And typically speaking, almost always, the defendant was never handed a lawyer, ever. They talked themselves. Someone, from the local district or whatever, prosecute from the state level would also talk, and then you had the judge that would make the decision. It wasn't really a jury thing. It wasn't, you weren't guaranteed a lawyer. There were so many things that really just didn't happen. There were a few plea deals. I will get to another page here in a minute, but looking at the 1800s, jury trial was often conducted without the use of a lawyer. The judge determined the system. The defendant was denied legal counsel, and in some instances, the prosecutor was conducted by a lawyer. But in many instances, the judge handled much of the criminal procedure, and that's what I was just talking about. There was no jury of your peers and that kind of thing. It just didn't happen. And of course, corporal punishment was pretty common then. You either get firing squad or get hung or something. They were pretty brutal.
Stoned to death.
Well, I don't know about. I don't think they did stoning then, but they might have in some areas. I don't really know.
You never know.
But during the 60s, some things began to change. The civil rights movement, and then our Bill of Rights came into effect. The Gideon v. Wainwright significantly changed the way that criminal cases are handled. In that case, the court ruled that the indigent defendant had the right to legal counsel, and as such, criminal cases now have a lawyer representing the criminal defendant's rights and another lawyer representing the interest of the state. So then you arrived. I mean, it really kind of started before, but it really was pretty much put in stone during this time period. It was an adversarial process between the state and the defendant. So, a lot of significant changes happened. And then, of course, Miranda became a thing in the late 60s, where every defendant, someone that gets arrested or was brought in for questioning, got Mirandized and advised of their rights to not speak. But, this also became an era of a time at the end of the 60s where the backroom rubber gloves and rubber hose treatment was beginning. They were really calling it into question, and it had to stop because people were getting beat half to death to confess. You did it. No, I didn't. Bam, bam. You did it. No, I didn't. And there was people come out of black eyes and busted ribs, and they would confess. It had to stop. So, these when Miranda came into effect and people were allowed legally, I don't have to talk to you. Shut the fuck up and give me my lawyer.
Yeah, that's right.
Things changed, and it really became the adversarial process between the state and the defendant. So, the Fifth Amendment right to self-incrimination, that was another part of Plead the Fifth. There's just a lot of changes that came about in the 60s. And then let's get off the screen here. That's enough for that one.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, let's look at that. Let me pull this one up here before we get to the Wikipedia page.
Well, that's a good idea, Eric. Eric says that they should put long-term prisoners on jobs like building homes, building rehab facilities, hospitals, etc. These things that will help the public and them. Exactly. I agree. That's a very good suggestion. But guess what? They won't do that because that probably, they're risking them being outside. Some prisoners can't, things like that. So, but it is a very good idea. In Florida, they do put their prisoners on outside duties. They fix the streets, they clean up the boulevards, chop trees down. They do all kinds of things in Florida, and you see them out there with their striped uniforms. So, is this the next document, Jax?
Yeah, this is a page from history.com.
There you
Talks
go.
about it talks about plea bargaining gains favor in American courts. Again, this is getting people used to the idea of plea bargains as arrests increased, the population increased. Again, playing on the 13th Amendment, and again, us normal plebs not thinking about anyone greedy, or a whole bank of people that are greedy using our prisoners as slave labor, but they were looking at a way to get shit made cheap and work done cheap. So, but anyway, they're talking about the plea bargaining gains favor. It talked about this case. Albert McKenzie pleads guilty to a misdemeanor or count of embezzlement in Alameda County in California. McKenzie had originally been charged with a felony for taking $52.50 from a sewing machine company he worked for. However, rather than go through that trial, the prosecution and defendant agreed to a plea bargain, a practice that was becoming increasingly common in American courts. So the right to trial by jury was considered a central part of the justice system in the early days of the United States. The Seventh Amendment, and this is important here for everyone, yep. The Seventh Amendment of the Bill of Rights, codified as an essential part of the American civil liberties. When criminals are caught and charged, the government went through a trial and a verdict. But in the 1800s, a trend towards plea bargaining began in Alameda County from 1880 to 1910. Nearly 10% of all defendants changed their not guilty pleas to guilty pleas of lesser charges or pled guilty to reduced charges. So again, that we see that all the time. Yep. People are arrested for some horrendous crimes, and then when it comes down to trial, they plead. The charges are reduced. They still get some jail time, but it's not as bad. They still got to plead guilty to those lesser charges, but we really don't have a trial, and the prosecutor can move on to the next one. Right. So
90% of the court cases, criminal court cases nowadays are plea deals. Now think about that for a second. 90%.
That's right.
That is a lot of plea dealing going on.
Well, it is.
If you're innocent, don't ever do it. Don't ever give yourself a plea deal, because you are saying you're guilty in front of the courts, and that is how the courts will look at you, and trying to get an appeal from that is impossible.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll touch on that. Go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. Well,
it's crazy to me. It's just that, I know for myself, if I was given one and I wasn't guilty, I would never do it. I would take the trial and I would fight my way in court, because at least I'm saying I'm innocent. If I am plea dealing, I am saying I'm guilty. Even whether you're guilty or not, the courts are going to say you're guilty, and to try to get out of that, if you're innocent on an appeal, you might as well just have a confession, which is the worst way to try to get out. So to me, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It's terrible to think about having to, even if you did do something, the prosecutor is able to invent, I've got this, we've got your cellmate or somebody in your cell block that said that, you confessed. We're going to use that in court against you. And of course, they've invented some DNA somehow from somewhere they've got from you. Yeah. There's all kinds of tricks that they can use to convict someone. They have the power to do, and it's a crazy amount of power. I don't want to touch on this for just a second, and then before we run off too far, we talked about last week on it was really the first one. It was the idea that you had. What would you do? What would you change? What could you do? One of the things we talked about this on Foul Play, what do you think should be done? One of the ideas was in integrity units. um, I can't think of the first word, but integrity units for each county or city, jurisdiction, whatever,
Right.
however you want to say it. There are somewhere, and I can't tell you where, it's already done. It's already in place. These integrity units are already in place. They're public integrity units. They're not controlled by the police, not controlled by the state. It's a public thing, and they're already doing it. And
That's great.
I can't remember which state it's in. I'll have to look it up and I get back to you.
I just read it too, and I can't either. My short-term memory today, guys, is a little bit fried because I just made them deals, and I can't even remember. So I don't remember.
Yeah, my brain was completely fogged up yesterday, and I don't know why, but it was. Just a fog bank. So anyway, I thought about that, and I wanted to remind you, and I'll try to find out which state it is so we can talk about it later. Anyway, this is a Wikipedia page about plea bargaining in the United States, and it's interesting. People can go look this up. All you got to do is just do a quick Google search, and it'll pull this link up. None of these links that I looked up are anything special. You can just Google. All I did was Google history of plea bargains, and I brought up multiple pages. But these 3 or 4, whatever, were pretty interesting to me. So I thought I'd save them and share them today. But anyway, let's just read a little bit right here and talk about a little bit what you just said, Linda. Plea bargaining in the United States is very common. The vast majority of criminal cases in the United States are settled by plea bargain rather than by jury trial. They've also been increasing in frequency. They rose 84% of federal cases from 1984 to 94% by 2001. That's a 10%. Yeah, it's a leap.
Yes.
Plea bargains are subject to the approval of the court, and different states and jurisdictions have different rules. Game theory has been used to analyze the plea bargaining decision. The constitutionality of plea bargain was established by Brady v. United States, although the Supreme Court warned that plea incentives, which were sufficiently large or coercive as overrule the defendant's abilities to act or freely use in a matter to giving rise to a significant number of innocent people pleading guilty might be prohibited or lead to concerns over constitutionality. Santabello v. New York added that when plea bargains are broken, legal remedies exist. Again, once you plead guilty, or once you plead to a lesser degree or lesser time, whatever, lesser charge, you're guilty in the eyes of the court and the eyes of the state, and that shit follows you to your grave.
Yes, it does.
Short of some kind of miraculous thing, you can't get your record expunged. There's just all kinds of problems with it. So, this brings.
It's a very. I mean, you think that these guys that are fighting without pleading have a hard time getting out. Well, you can double your time if you do plead. It's virtually impossible.
Oh, absolutely, and it brings about a whole host of other things, and unless someone's guilty, they have no reason to plead. I mean, in my opinion, they have no reason to plead. Right. But I guess I can understand it, and maybe for someone that for people that really are really no means whatsoever, and they're against the wall, and the prosecutors threatening them with. Yeah. Know what I mean? The prosecutors threatening them with 20 years or whatever. But if you plead, I can, we'll knock that down to 5 years or 2 years or whatever.
Right.
It's still a win for him. The case is closed, and you care that you care but that person carries the burden of that guilty plea.
Exactly. So the prosecutor just looks at you and, okay, you're done. Let's get on another one. I mean, they say the reasons for a plea deal are mainly money. Poor people will lose every time. That statement is so very true.
Steven nailed that one.
Yes, he did.
Anyway, the looking at there are some differences between state and federal pleading, and even in some jurisdictions a little bit like this Wikipedia page talks about. There are some judges that are they may not take a plea deal depending on the crime and the person and what's involved. They may reject it. Or they may accept the plea deal, but they will reject the amount of time that the prosecutor is saying, well, we want to knock this down. The judge can reject that.
Yeah.
And like you said, a person could end up with way more time than if they just went to trial.
Yes. Like
So,
drug charges, for instance, are usually they say are a good plea deal. Well, if you're only going to do 5 years for having something, you might end up doing 20 years. And that's seen a lot. And that's why a lot of our prisons are full because of plea deals in a drug case. That is something that I read, and crazy,
Right. So, personally, I think that it's not really constitutional. It's really worse than that for me. I think that plea deals have really basically ruined the justice system in many ways. I've said it for a long time. I bellyached about it. People have foul play and everywhere else have heard me bitch about it. I think plea deals are one of the worst things in our justice system that it's just accepted now, and it has been for a long time.
I agree.
It's terrible. It's blown up. The last 40 years, it's blown up to just crazy proportions. You think about of all the cases that are people getting arrested on a daily basis, times 365,
Yeah.
and then of that massive number of people that are arrested, what is it, 3 or 4% see the inside of a courtroom?
Yep.
Is that right?
3% see a court trial is what I just read. So I mean, come on. That is, and they say they're excuse me, doing it because they would overload the courts, which is true. It probably wouldn't take very long at all. I think we were talking about it in foul play, and they said something like a week. I think everybody came up with it would probably be a week before the courts were overcrowded. But even then, I would take my chances of waiting. Then it might not be a speedy trial, but you're still entitled to it. And like I said, I mean, we can talk about when you're done with this. Well, I got a little bit more to kind of stem off of it. So I'll just let you finish with this and we'll kind of open it up.
Well, I mean, there's really not a whole lot more. Like I said, I don't want to just read verbatim because
Okay.
people have heard this before. But we can look at a little bit more of this page here because it is interesting. The Wikipedia page goes a little bit more in depth and talk about 1950 and onward. Hush, cat. My cat's in here.
It says hi.
My 15-year-old cat. He has these meowing fits. I don't know what the heck's going on.
It's okay.
I guess he wants to talk. He wants to talk. But it really started. The plea deals really started in the late 1800s. That's really where it really started happening for lesser charges, blah blah blah, and then it just kept going on and on and on. But looking at the population, policing, police action, civil rights, Bill of Rights, Miranda. Another really important key to this that we really haven't talked about too much is the ability the Supreme Court gave. It's not a law. It's not a regulation. A court case allowed police officers to lie in the interrogation room.
Yeah.
I don't know why that hasn't been addressed legally.
That should be the biggest no right there. That's because face it, all court cases start from where? The police.
Potentially lying to the defendant right in the interrogation room.
Exactly. It starts there, and then they bring it over to the prosecutor. And now, if this prosecutor is somebody that, hey, I need more convictions so I can get voted in next year, he's going to be looking at cases that he probably normally would not. Okay.
Well,
and the way to get out of that is giving him a plea deal. So he wins a conviction and they got a guy in prison, which the state wins for money, and it's all around good, but not for the defendant.
Right. You have to look at also, we think about white collar crime, the stockbroker screws over a bunch of people, and he gets arrested. Then he's able, he can post bail and get out and get a lawyer, probably by the very firm where he screwed people over with. They defend him. He gets charges, get knocked down. They have to make restitution. Doesn't serve any jail time, and life moves on. Then you have the poor kid from the poor neighborhood or whatever. He's dealing a little bit of grass on the side. He doesn't do anything violent. He's just dealing a little grass, making a little money, enough to survive. I'm just talking about whatever. Even people that may even have a regular job, they're just trying to make some extra money. They get caught. They go to jail. They don't really have money for a lawyer, or they can't make bail. They're screwed, blued, and tattooed. And the difference in that, even if that person could potentially get bail money and get out, the way that they're treated in the system is disparagingly different. It is. You've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. But looking at how the mechanics of all that works, plea deals and everything else that I just mentioned, and then the police being given the ability to deceive someone in the interrogation room. And then let's just walk that a little bit forward from what you just talked about. The cops say, okay, well, we've got this. Let's walk this over to the prosecutor. And he doesn't know about the lie. He doesn't know about the deception. And he doesn't ask. And he's handed this pile of information that the police got. But a lot of it was based because they lied to the defendant. So the prosecutor, even if he's a good prosecutor, he could be starting out with a lie in his hand, and he doesn't even know it. So I think that has to change. It has to go, because if a prosecutor is really seeking the truth, it can't begin with a lie at the cop station. It can't. So
yeah,
I get angry about plea deals too. Anyway, the plea deal is more than an admission of past conduct. The defendant's consent that judgment of conviction may be entered without a trial, waiver of his right to trial before a jury or a judge. Waivers of a constitutional rights not only must be voluntary, but must be knowing, intelligent acts done with sufficient awareness of the relevant circumstances and likely consequences. And I'll bet you that most people, the regular person, does not understand that long term. They're just trying to get out of trouble. They're not thinking about 10 years from now, right?
No, when you're in a situation, you want to get out of it. You're thinking, what can I do?
Yeah, how can I get home? Let me get out of this hellhole. Rikers Island. You talk about Rikers Island. Jesus Christ.
That's Paul in the comments here just said that Cleve Bauer was the worst show documentary he's ever seen. And he doesn't mean worst by the way it was made. It's what they did to Cleve. I mean, he was picked up on buying or supposedly stealing a backpack. They put him in Rikers Island, and there he sat for 3 years while they tried to get him to plea in, and he would not do it. And the judges even tried it, and the people that were pressing charges on him had left the country, and he's still sitting in Rikers Island.
Okay. And the prosecutors knew it. The prosecutor knew that person had left the country and went back to Mexico or wherever they were from and had been gone.
Yes.
And didn't tell the judge.
Yeah.
And didn't get in trouble.
Yeah. They've been trying to shut down Rikers Island for years. And let me tell you, by personal experience, I have been there, not as a prisoner, visiting, which was just as bad. That's all I can say. What you see on TV about that place, you can bet it's true.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, the whole idea of the plea deal benefits only the state. It really doesn't benefit, because those prisoners do not. I mean, yeah, for somebody that's broken the law, yeah, okay,
yeah.
If they want to take if they really did break the law and they really want to take the plea deal and understand the consequences thereof, okay. But I'm not talking about that part of the population. There's I don't know what the percentage would be, but I'm going to guess it's going to be a pretty large percentage of people that are arrested and defendant that really haven't done anything wrong, and they're falsely accused anyway.
Yeah.
And then these prosecutors treat them the same way they would treat somebody that's in the system all the time, that really is a criminal, that
Right.
breaks the law all the time.
Right.
So, and they're
Like,
interrogated the same. Well, they're
They-
interrogated. Everything's the same.
yeah, they can set you up just like trial 4. Guy goes, why did they pick you? Well, it wouldn't matter who I am. I'm just a person to them. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter who they put them drugs on. It didn't matter to them. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as they feel they can get it away with it, like in a poor neighborhood, just like what they did in Daniel's case. I mean, they took people that had ongoing problems and figured that they'd make them a deal. Let's talk about it. So, the plea deals, the rights you lose, that's a good one to start with, huh, Jax? I mean, let's say, okay, first of all, you're guilty in the courts. I mean, you didn't do it, but you're guilty. And you do 5 years, say, where you would have done 15 years. Okay, so you got to deal with that, but still 5 years, you're still got a felony or a guilty charge on your record.
That's right.
Okay, and you didn't do anything, but you sat the 5 years without fighting it, because what's 5 years, right? I mean, you're going to try to get out in 5 years, you should have shut your mouth, and just did the 5 years. But there are cases, like I said, in the drug cases, they find that there's way over sentencing for that. That you would probably not even do a year, and sometimes you're doing 10 to 20 years for a non-violent case. No harm against society, except for you're dealing some drugs and you're just trying to make money, like you said. So if you're innocent, I don't know. I just know, maybe because I know that I would never make a plea deal unless I was guilty of the crime.
No way.
I would never do it. I mean, I just cannot see doing it. Agree. Same. Oh, I'm gonna have to go up for the questions.
Yeah, there's just no way in hell that I would accept a plea deal if I was innocent. There's just no way I would do it. And I'll say that sitting here, not arrested and really never been in trouble in my life, but
me neither. So yeah. Banana Man says, if they take a plea deal and it still involves testifying, I guess their deal would be null and void, and the prosecutor would make out they just are trying to save their friend or accomplice. I don't really know how that works, because I think that would be in a trial, and a plea deal, you don't go to trial. And the reasons given for plea deals are to save the overlogging the courts and money. And poor people, like you said, are going to jump on the chance to not have to pay a lawyer because they probably can't afford one, and thinking, hey, I'm getting a deal. I mean, they're offering me this, and I don't even know what I would get if I went to trial. So most people, not knowing their own ignorance towards the law, and believe me, I was before I got involved with this, I had no idea about any of this. And if I would have gotten in trouble, I probably would have took a plea deal, guilty or not. You know what I mean? I've been around some people that get in trouble, and if I would have had to be in trouble with them, who knows? I probably would have did that. So
right, because you don't know. You don't know this whole other industry has blown up around really the 13th Amendment. There's no other way for me to look at it, because we have thousands and thousands of prisoners on a daily basis, providing basically free labor to these large companies or the state themselves, one of the two. And I don't care who you're working for. If you're working for less than minimum wage, you're working for slave. You're a slave, and you're still a slave anyway. But you're really, if you're whatever entity is paying me, 10 or 20 cents an hour, you make $2 a day or whatever.
right.
Sandwiches and maybe some water if you're lucky.
Yeah, probably less than that too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That is, when you told me about that, I was like, you're kidding me. It really says that? It really says that you're a slave? I mean, by the law, you are owned by that state. You know
That's
what
right.
I mean? you are owned by that state. So
if
when
if it had
you
if it hadn't been if it wasn't directly written in the amendment like that, maybe
Mhm.
you could argue it differently. But it is written in there like that.
Right. And let's talk about the changes that it has made in our justice system by plea bargaining. Honestly, it, like you said, it's messed up our justice system because first of all, people aren't really knowing their rights. They're not even finding out their rights for charges, trials, and all that other stuff that go with it. But the courts are just making their decisions, and they're not really going by any books. I mean, they can make up their charges, or how long you stay, or it's just there's really no guidelines for them with a plea bargain. They're pretty much able to do as they please. Isn't that true?
Well, I guess to agree, but you look at some cases and you can think about. I'm not talking. Well, like you can actually think of the really bad ones, but a lot of cases, if you look at what a prosecutor originally charges someone with, they overcharge. They just it's like they pile on. It's a pile on, right?
Yeah.
And then even after the prosecutor's done, you might even get resisting arrest, um, felony striking an officer. There's all kinds of things they can add to it, which can even add, in some instances, significant time on top of what the prosecutor is already charging you with. So then all of a sudden, these terrible charges that they said that you did are reduced. Well, how does that happen?
Right.
They either did it or they didn't do it. So there's already a lie to begin with.
Right.
Truth in
Go ahead.
charging is what truth in charging. You understand what I'm saying? The prosecutor should be forced, if he's going to make charges against someone, it has to be the truth. He can't go back and say, "Oh, well, we have a plea deal now. I don't have to take this guy to court, so it's a lesser charge." What?
Right. Well, yeah, the three plea bargains, they're based on three things: sentencing, sentencing bargaining, charge bargaining, and what was the last one, Jax?
Damn, you just had that pulled up. Hell, I don't remember that third one.
Oh, okay. I can take a quick look. I forgot. I didn't put it down. It was plea bargains are fact. There's sentencing, fact, and charge bargaining. That's
Yeah.
what they are. Right, exactly. So the charges, that the fact one, they say, is better for any drug charge, because they will lessen, like, you and the well, not you, your lawyer, bargain for what actually happened and what's
Right.
less happening.
Right.
Sentencing bargaining is, they're supposed to lessen your sentencing, which majority of the time does not happen. Like, they use the death penalty as an example. They say, so if you went to court or went to trial, you'd get the death penalty. So they will stop that death penalty and you'll get life without parole, or life with possibility of parole, which in the long run, if you went to trial, that's probably what you would have gotten in the beginning, to begin with. Okay, so, and then what was the other one? Charge. I said that one already. Fact, charge. Okay, and the charge one is, this basically is all them bargaining with your time, your freedom. And once you make a plea deal, the judge can say, "Oh, sorry, I'm not going to go for this," and they will charge you as they see fit. So you're really, who are you making a bargain for? You're not your freedom, because you're going to end up going to jail anyway, and then you look guilty. And an innocent person. My main thing with these is, if they pressure you into it, they really do pressure you to make a plea deal, and then when you do, if you're innocent or guilty, in the eyes of the court, you will always be guilty. And trying to get out or trying to get an appeal, it's just not going to happen for you.
Oh yeah, forget it. It's not going to work.
Plea deals in the Netherlands are made to criminals to cross witness higher end criminals. Oh, that's interesting
Well,
to
yeah,
know.
they're trying to get the bigger fish.
Right. Okay. Paul says another documentary about plea deals is called The Vanishing Trial. One of the people featured is Stephen Avery. Oh wow, I didn't know that. I've never
Wow,
even
I have
heard
to
of it.
check that out. I wonder where
Yeah.
that's on at.
If you guys have any questions, otherwise I'm just reading comments. Innocent people in jail, but many times they let them out after a few years for murder. Our system is opposite of yours. They can't get out. I believe that. That's from I can't even say names
Yeah.
tonight.
Alice Irvine says prosecution immunity needs to go, and I agree because the prosecutors can do, or really the prosecutor in the United States can really pretty much get away with damn near anything without having to serve jail time, and that's wrong.
Right.
It's just wrong.
Morals have got to re-enter the U.S. justice system. Yeah, slightly. Since the plea deals, I think there's more wrongful convictions. In fact, I think it's up to 10. It's anywhere from, it used to be 2% a few years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, it's up to 8% now. So 8 out of 100 of people are wrongfully convicted. And that has to do with plea deals. You can't blame anything else other than that outside, you can blame the people for being innocently put in front of the courts, which starts again at your police level where the investigation is. So there's a whole bunch of I could go on forever about all the things that I think are wrong with it, but honestly I think it should be abolished, and we should figure out how to maybe properly investigate the criminals or defendants before they even come before the courts. Honestly, they really do.
Well, that comes along with these integrity units, making sure that an investigation is ran, it is based on truth and not a conviction. That would be difficult to do, but it needs to be difficult. It should be hard. There should be nothing easy about putting someone, taking their liberty away. If the prosecutor of the state is really serious about locking someone up for a crime, it needs to be hard. It shouldn't just be, well, we've caught this guy, we've got his DNA, and we checked his burn pit, and there's a bunch of bones back there, and yeah, we found this, and no, we didn't take any photos of it. No, we didn't have any of that. We didn't bother, and we can make blah 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 every excuse under the sun, but he still did it. So let's
Right.
just lock him up. We don't like that guy.
Well,
he comes from that old junkyard out there. Those people were shunned anyway.
yeah.
That's it. Another thing is creative.
Swimming upstream. Yes, every state, every prosecutor should have to swim upstream to convict somebody. It shouldn't
That's
be
right.
a defendant swimming upstream, because if I recall right, our rights are you're innocent until you are proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay. And nowadays it is you're guilty and you better prove yourself innocent before you go to jail.
That's what it's turned into, and it's wrong.
It has.
The police have.
I have to take that back. It wasn't Stephen Avery. It was Sugar Lips Avery, according to Eric Banana Man.
Sugar Lips.
It was a lady with the initial S and their last name Avery, I would imagine. Everybody's guessing, but I'll take Eric Banana Man's first. It was Sugar Lips.
Another thing that's cropped up around the justice system too that I really have a problem with is the bond system.
Yeah, that's a money maker.
It's a huge money maker. And bond money you don't get back.
Right. You don't. They say you do. You don't. You don't get that money back. I've never seen, and I bonded people out, and I've never seen that money again.
Oh, I have too. Thousands of dollars. I never got any of it back.
And I've never got it back. So even if they do show up for court and go through it, the process, they say they're going to send you the money after they're all done. But yeah, I never seen it, so I don't get it. You know what I mean? There's that, plus how about the money that it costs a prisoner to even have any extras in prison? It's bumped up 5 times what it would be out in the streets.
Well, yeah, if you
and
send Brendan $100, the prison's going to get 40 of it right off the top.
40% of it, exactly. So, and the phone calls, astronomical prices to make a phone call,
Again, built up somebody else making money off of someone else's
Right.
misery.
Right. And Bob Barker, hey, thanks for having all them products for our prisoners, because he's the one that owns all the rights to all that stuff in the prisons. The flip-flops, the shampoo, the toothpaste, the tooth, anything a prisoner gets. Bob Barker's got his copyright on that. So
is that around the country? Is that the United States, or is that just in?
I don't know about any other countries, but yeah. So that's crazy. I mean, check out somebody's bar of soap if you know anybody that's been in prison, and look at who makes it. It'll tell you right there, Bob Barker Productions. So
Really,
it certainly does. So that to me is real crazy that somebody could cap on all of that. You know what I mean? And he gets a lot of money for that. I'm sure he does. Think about all the prisons. It's crazy. Chaz says, I was always under the impression that you put up bond, it was only forfeited if they didn't turn up in court. Well, that's what I was under the impression of too.
well, even if you use a bail bondsman and they front the money and you pay them back, you have to pay back a huge amount more. They charge the crap out of you. I mean, it's a massive charge. So
they bump it up so they got their profit, or why would they put anything out? Money
well,
does.
that brings up the bond system to begin with, and look at what they did to Stephen. He was, originally it was, a $500,000 bond. Then it looked like that Alan Dolores were going to be able to put up the property and the property in Crivets. And what did they do? Brendan gets arrested. They rack up a bunch of charges on him, and then they up the charges on Avery without any kind of proof at all. No proof, just words. Not one shred bit of proof. They had 3 more charges to Avery, which Kratz magically says, well, we got to increase his bail. That's not enough. We need to raise that up to like $2 million. Yeah. The judge said, no, but we're going to go with $750,000, and we're not going to allow you to put your property up. Thanks, bye.
Yeah, and they couldn't put up their property, which I'm sure was, plenty good enough, but they wouldn't accept it. And why? Only in his case. I mean,
it was a surety bond, and a surety bond, basically they would have they would have had to sign their deeds over in case, and if Steve hadn't showed up for trial, which I'm sure he would have.
Well, he was in jail.
If they would have put up the surety bond and they bailed him out, I'm sure he would have showed up and they would have got their property back or the deeds back. But the whole bail bond system is a huge moneymaker that started on the side as well. Again, it's another cottage industry that's been built around the justice system, and I don't like it.
Right. It's one more thing that screws up our justice system. Exactly. It does. I mean, we can go down the line, and I'm trying to break it all down into small little tidbits, in these videos I'm doing. From my one question, what is the one thing you would change in the justice system if you could? And I mean, it really sparked a lot of thought in me and other people. And this is just one of them. Plea deals is just one of them. There's integrity units and no immunity. I mean, can we talk about immunity? I mean, that we could go on forever, this prosecutional immunity and all that other stuff, it's just one more thing.
Well, plea deals to me are the absolute worst thing about the criminal justice system, because it's allowed, it really encaptures, I think, probably more wrongful convictions than anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
As a whole.
Yeah.
And I just think that plea deals should be the exception and not the rule. And now they're just happening all the time. It's like it's normal. And even when I went to school, in ninth grade, the first civics class that I was in, even then, I think we talked about it a little bit with our teacher. He was really good. I've told you this before, but he was really good. He was an excellent teacher, talking about civics, your civic duty. He was a really civic minded person, but he taught us a lot about civil rights and all of that, and we talked about it. And it wasn't like it kind of was like a regular class, but it really wasn't, because we had a lot of open discussion. We could ask questions, pretty much like we're doing right now. I mean, not during test time, of course, but I'm talking about by and large when we were just having class, we talked, and it opened my brain up to a world. Of course, I'm 13, 14 years old. You're just a kid. You don't really quite grasp the magnitude of it. But even then, he talked about it to some degree, but it introduced me to a world of this whole civic side of the legal system, which I think that I really don't know how much is being done today. And to me, I think it should be required from the time you're probably in the 7th or 8th grade till you graduate, to learn about our legal system and what it really means, and to improve it, not tear it down, to improve it, fix it.
Exactly.
Because if the system was done like it's supposed to be done by people that really used the law the way it's supposed to be used, it would be a good system. But they've just completely destroyed it. They just fucked it up for their own benefit. And pardon my language, that's the way I feel.
Justice and truth, and lying, right from where all court cases start, are from the police. Okay, so when they're lying to you, okay, you don't stand a chance. You just don't stand a chance with the honest cop that's there to protect you from crimes is lying to you about a crime that you possibly are not guilty of, have no idea about, and so you feel pressured into that right away. Okay, well, we got a deal for you. Well, then again, there you're like, okay, well, I'll just do a deal, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I would never been in this case, I would have no idea about these things. I would not know. So the average person does not know. And I agree with you, Jax, that the children of America should have education on the Constitution, on their rights. They really should. Everybody should know their rights.
Absolutely, backwards and forwards. And I think that long term, I think it would. I know it would certainly benefit everyone, but I didn't really grow up in a large city. So my experience is different. I'm sure I see things differently than someone that grew up in Atlanta or Dallas, or a large city, and had to deal with a more that kind of lifestyle and that type of policing. We saw the cops. Typically, someone was in trouble, and that's the truth. We just didn't see them that often. They make a pass through, but that was about it.
Right. I'm same way. I didn't grow up in the city, so I really didn't see that. And if there was a cop going down the street, it was like, oh my gosh, somebody did something. So you know what I mean? You just knew somebody did something. You just did. It wasn't like they passed your house every day, and even the people that have this happening to them, that see the police all the time in them neighborhoods, they're usually the worst for knowing their rights. In the inner city, they don't know their rights either. We have more of a chance in the suburbs and country to learn about our rights than they do in the inner city. So, and that's where most criminals or innocent people, convicted people, come from. The average everyday person does not expect the expense, what court costs are going to be. Nobody does, and that's why they hit you with the plea bargain, so you can save money and they can save court time.
Oh, it's definitely a benefit. It's all a benefit for the state, but the ability. That's another thing that you mentioned, the ability of policing, being able to lie. It's grown out of and I'm sure they would happen before then, but happening in the interrogation room, and then it follows them down to the prosecutor's office, and then they get called to testify. Well, they got to lie some more there. They have to talk to some people, and they have to lie to them too, because they began that lie way back here, and now they've said it in court. Now they have to carry it out into the public. So the lie propagates itself, and to me, that it's just wrong, and it has to stop.
Right.
It's got to stop. It can't be allowed. And if you catch, and you know, I understand, you know, you don't want bad people on this, around us. Most people don't.
Right.
Most people will help you catch the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
They will help you. But if you treat them like crap and you lie to them, they're not going to help you. I don't care who you are. I'm not. If a cop comes in and treats me belligerently, I'm not going to help him.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. But if you're, you know, if you come in and you want to talk, I'll talk to you. So
see, now I don't even do that except for give them my name and their information that they need, because
well, I mean, if I'm
like they can make a deal, they say, "Oh, well, we'll help you out," like they did with Brendan, for instance. "Oh, don't worry, we'll be there for you. We can help you out." Listen, you are not a judge, you are not a lawyer, and you cannot make a plea deal that will help me, or a deal in any way in court. What you say written down on that report, if you are a smart enough cop to make one, you know, is gold in the courts. It's like the Lord said it. They're not going to question that. So whatever you say, when they say whatever you say will be used, could be used against you, it is used against you. So I'm not saying nothing. Not saying a dang thing to any cop. I don't care if it's a traffic ticket. You're getting my name.
No, I mean, if they're after someone that you know is a murderer or something, that's what I mean.
I might help them during that.
No.
But not
I'm not talking about. No, I'm not talking about me. If you're going to accuse me, you better bring some proof. You know, I can't. I got nothing for you. Here's my name. Give me a lawyer. I can't talk to you. You know, I like to be able to trust you, but I can't.
Paul brings up a good thing, saying that making a murder kind of brings the change, and that the younger generation are seeing the bigger picture, which Sean totally agrees with it, and saying that, you know, it does bring awareness to the younger people in America, well, probably all around the world, to start looking into their own rights. And I can only hope that. I mean, I know I've raised my kids, so you want a lawyer. You want a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? I tell my granddaughter that all the time. You know, if a policeman talks to you, tell him you want a lawyer.
That's right. You tell him you need a lawyer. Well, I mean, Paul's right. I mean, there was already a lot of things going on, really, that were right at the surface when Making a Murderer came out, and there were other cases that had blown a little bit, but Making a Murderer was a real catalyst, and it was timely, and it just blew the lid off of so much. It opened a lot of people's eyes. I know it opened. I mean, I knew a lot, but my God, I mean, there was so much I just didn't know that, you know, the police would do, the prosecutors would do, and how far they would go. Just there's a lot of these prosecutors, they know they're wrong, and they are so arrogant they won't say, "Hey, we made a mistake." I'm not talking about in this case, because I know that Mr. Sweaty Bag, he'll never admit it. But
never. That's another thing. If you do have an appeal, and you go, why should you have to? First of all, you're fighting the state that convicted you. Why should you have to go in front of the judge that convicted you? That seems pretty biased to me, because I don't see too many judges going to say, "Hey, I made a mistake here. Let me just tell you, I made a mistake." I don't see that happening. I
think that varies by the state. I don't think that happens in every state. I think that kind of happens I think that's kind of the way it is in Wisconsin. Yeah. But I don't know that that's necessarily how it is in other states. It could be. I don't really know. I would hope not. I would hope not.
Yeah. That's just one of them things, you know, that's just another step of injustice in our justice system. So,
well, you know, Fox had two. He actually had 3 times to fix what was going on, and he didn't do it.
Right.
And that it's you know, we talked about ethics and morality. You always brought it up a minute ago. Yep. That, you know, the moral man knows it's wrong to screw around on his wife. The ethical man won't do it.
That's right. Very good. I like that. That's something people can relate to out there, for sure.
It's just that simple.
You know, honestly, well, you know, sometimes you got to put those little things in there to make people understand that. So, you know, but Yeah, I think that the plea deals should just be abolished. I think that courts should have to do what they were meant to do, which is have a trial and judge you by your peers or whatever means they have, but they still should convict you on 100% you are guilty, not, hey, you might be innocent, but let's make a deal here and you'll only do a little bit of time, because if you go to court, which they're lying, you're going to do a lot worse, because they're lying to you. They just want it to be done with. 90% of court cases last year, that was last year, 90% are plea dealed. So what does that tell you? That 10% are go to trial? And I just read the other day,
I thought it was less than, I thought it was 94% were.
96% this year I read for 96% go to plea deal. That leaves you 3% that go to trial out of all cases. And they're talking worldwide. So that is like, or, American in America. So that is just, to me, too many that are being, and wrongful convictions are in there, and they are. And that's why the increase in the wrongful convictions, because there is, they say anywhere from 6 to 8%, I think I read, I could be wrong, quote me, of our wrongful convictions. And that is crazy. That is just crazy.
It is crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's all built around one thing: greed.
You got it. Money. What benefits them? Yep. Or, if they're up for vote. It's another thing. Our politics are in our justice system, and it shouldn't be there. I don't believe that you should be worrying about convicting people to get votes. I honestly think you should be working towards the truth, and that's how you should get your votes. But
and that's where the education for people that are younger, where their mind can accept and begin to understand the civic part of their life in living in, at least in America, probably I'm sure in other countries as well. It's no different, It's still the civic mindset of doing the right thing and making sure that these things are followed through and done the right way, and not just get a conviction for feathering somebody's cap. Hey, Kratz got 2 major convictions and some gigantic feathers in his cap, and look what that sumbitch did.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody held him with a 10-foot cattle prod away from him. He didn't progress up into the ranks of the Wisconsin legal machinery. He was held back. He didn't win his election. He wasn't supported. Apparently, he got pretty badly addicted, which I think he was prior to that anyway. But all these other things happened, and it didn't benefit him one bit, except for just short time in the limelight. And then when making murder hit, he's tried every way in the world to defend himself, and he can't.
Yeah. And BB put out a link for a pocket constitution. I do have one, and I did send for it, and it's nice. I was going to show you, but I don't think I can reach it because I think it's in a different. Oh, this might be it. Oh, well, this is my. This is the old one, but it's
everybody should know their Bill of Rights,
right?
Or at least have it handy where they, can defend themselves.
Yep. Click on that link that BB put out there, and you can get yourself one free, because I did get mine. I used that link, and I did get one because I wanted to see if it was different. It's a much easier one to read, and Sean puts up, it's a Hillside College one copy. Yep, that'll send you a free copy. Yes, it is. And does anybody have any questions? Or let me see. I'm trying to read if there's.
Yeah, I've been trying to kind of read as we went by.
Some students, potential lawmakers of tomorrow, show them the importance of the concepts of liberty and justice. Exactly, Sean. You're exactly right. Young generation waking up to implications for the security they will inherit. Sean, you're just a great thinker. Yep. So does anybody have any questions? Jax, do you have any more you'd like to say?
Well, No, just thanks for having this little discussion about plea deals. I have a real problem with it. I'll probably have a bigger problem with this than probably any part of the justice. I'll have a problem with other parts of it too, but plea
Because this
deals.
is the start of all the other trickle down problems.
That's right, because they're it's like the prosecutor is automatically looking at a plea deal at every case, and how can it be that way?
Right.
How can it's and now it's just become accepted nature of how many cases he lands on his desk, especially in a large office, New York or Chicago or something. The prosecutor gets hammered with cases. How many is he looking at right off the bat out of that are plea deals? It's entered his mind. It is.
And that entails, does the state even have evidence against you to even convict you?
That's right. That's right.
So it is a trickle down. It's a big factor that nobody really thinks of, but that trickles down to wrongful convictions. The state being just plain lazy. I'm getting, it is just plain laziness. They think, well, if I plea them, then I don't even have to have this evidence. That's no problem. I don't got to do no work. And at conviction, another little belt in their, notch in their belt.
That's right. So anyway, been a good discussion. Hopefully we've educated a few people that didn't know about the 13th and some other history of plea deals and how it came about and where it continues to go. It needs to go back the other way. Jury trial. If you're going to charge somebody and take their freaking life away from them, you take them to court and you prove it.
That's right. I agree 100%. And if you're going to make a plea deal, make sure you're guilty at that crime. Because if you're you're never get out, you better be guilty of that. And I'd like to thank every single person that's been here. It's been great. I love seeing the faces that I haven't seen, or the typing, the names, I should say, that I haven't seen. Jax, thanks so much for all your knowledge and spending time here and educating all of us. I appreciate it. And everybody else, hey, look for the next video, because when I get somebody else up here, and I'm not quite sure who it's going to be, I'm going to give away my sweatshirt. That is my no verbiage, merch. Check it out. It's my channel. I love my cup. I can't even show it to you. See, one side says not my verbiage. Remember the reasons. And one says them are my verbiage. So, they turned out pretty nice, and I'm pretty proud of making something for my channel. And check out Jax on Discord, and make sure that you watch join them on the open mic on Sundays, right, Jax? Sundays.
That's right. Yep. Sundays. This Sunday we'll be finishing up part two of Mark Rohr and on the 2005 depositions. It's going to be an interesting. I think that once we get to the end of it, I'm hoping. I'd like for Banana Man to join us, but of course that's up to him.
Join us.
Well, I mean, he knows where this shit's going. He knows exactly what's going to be revealed, and I think people are going to say, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
So
join for the open mic and follow Plea the Uncle Ken Kratz on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah, that's
one. It's a great community to be in. Me and Jax are both there, and a lot of you are already out there. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. I had a great time. It's lovely seeing you all, and please, everybody, be safe. Thanks, Jax.
You bet.